That's what you get from Texas, right? Jerry Payne, thank you, Jerry. The way I met Jerry was, people know that I put my phone number everywhere. People say, why are you putting your phone number, right? Well, we do everything in this campaign that's unconventional. You'll see me working on this, you'll see me dragging this. We're hands-on. You know why? Because all of us are hands-on. We're not like these politicians who have 20 handlers, right? They have limos, they have handlers on handlers. That's not what America was built on. This country was built on working people who had skills, who knew how to innovate and knew how to create, right? That's what this country is built on. It wasn't built on parasites and lawyers and lobbyists. And that's what's over here. That's what's over here. And every day, year over year, people tell us to come here and to beg to these people for crumbs, right? Stop the vaccines, stop the vaccination movement. You have people like Robert Kennedy, because his entire family is the one that's been involved in vaccination, end to end, and they want to hold us to these people, because that's how they control us. And what this campaign is about is breaking away from them. That's what this is about. It's about us declaring our freedom, our truth, and our health. That's what this is about. And that's what Jerry's talking about. When Jerry talks about the light, it's not just me, it's in every one of us. And the entire basis of this amazing country was that every one of us was supposed to express the light of creativity, the light of innovation, the light of expression that God wanted us. That's what this country was about, right? And there was no one supposed to be between our way, between our self and our Creator. And that's how we blossom the light within us. That's right. And that's why we say, know the truth, be the light, find your way. That's what truth, freedom, and health is about. That is what Shiva for Senate is about. And that's why we've galvanized a powerful movement, not only in Massachusetts, not only nationally, but globally. Hundreds of millions of people have seen those videos we made, in spite of the mainstream media, because it's resonating with people. It's resonating with people who came from Pennsylvania, Jerry from Texas, from New York, everyone. They're coming here because people know that Massachusetts is ultimately the center of the deep state.
That's right.
Right? This is where it all started. The revolution started here, and the next revolution will also start here. And that's what we've unleashed with truth, freedom, and health. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. This is not about just winning a Senate campaign. This is not about just being a career politician. This is about all of us. This campaign is your campaign, my campaign, everyone's campaign to create our future. That's what this is about. There's no scripts here. There's no consultants here. All of us are volunteers. Not one paid person on this campaign. Not one. They have their standard way of manipulating you. There's no manipulation here. There's only authenticity. And that's what you'll always get from you and me, and that's what the American people are about. So let's talk about what I wanted to do here is I wanted to talk about what the real problem is. And then when we do a march, we're going to march down there, we're going to go down Tremont, and we're going to talk about the real solution. But we need to identify what the real problem is, right? In order to solve a problem, you got to know what the real problem is. And for far too long, we've been distracted, right? Go beg for crumbs, and something will happen. That's not how we ever have gotten anything. We got to go to the heart of the heart of the heart of the issue. And what is that issue? There's two concepts that we need to take away from here. The fight between the forces of power, profit, and control versus truth, freedom, and health, and the forces of real change versus the not-so-obvious establishment.
That's right.
All right? That's what we're going to talk about here, because in there you have the establishment and the not-so-obvious establishment. And the not-so-obvious establishment has been designed to manipulate you, to take advantage of you, right? That's what they do. And it involves a liberal elite. They say they want to come and take care of you, right? They want to protect you. And what they do is to manipulate you and throw you a few crumbs. And then you should be so thankful that you got the safety from them. And then the other wing imposes, takes those regulations and creates monopolies. That's how they work hand in hand. So we're going to talk about that. Right? Truth, freedom, and health versus power, profit, and control. Those words are not just slogans. When John turns around, come up here, John. What do you see here? You see truth, freedom, and health, right? John's in good shape, right? Excellent. Turn around. There we go. That's health. And when you're strong, you can fight for freedom, right? Turn around, John. So what do you see here? Beyond, left, and right. 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 That's what this is about. Because as long as we have the left and the right, they play us. They play us like a nice musical instrument, right? That's what they've been doing. Malcolm X talked about it. Malcolm X exposed the liberal elite, right? But he was never given the light of day. They put others to control the civil rights movements in this country because they didn't want truth. But you got to go beyond left and right. And when you go down to truth, freedom, and health, it's beyond left and right. You don't have to be left or right. What does it show? That you, number one, need freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom, 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 freedom. That's what is beyond left and right. Truth, freedom, and health. 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 So that's what it's about. We start with freedom. Because freedom is our God-given right to manifest the light within us, as Jerry talked about. That's what it's all about. We're here, and then we go away one day, right? We can all argue about where we go, but we do know that we're here right now, okay? And we're here to express that light. It's about connecting with the higher being, figuring out what your dreams are, and the choices that you want to make for your lives. Not a government telling you what to do. Not a government telling you that the science is settled. Not a government telling you, well, I believe in science. No, there's no belief. That's not how science works. There's not something called scientific consensus. Oh yeah, CO2 is a pollutant. That's a consensus. Oh yeah, vaccines are the only way to cure you, right? That's what they've done. They've created a fake science, and people over there, over at MIT and Harvard, are today practicing the oldest profession in the world. That's what they practice. So they have these guys, they have those guys, and over there you have the media. Fake news, fake science, and these, whatever they are, okay? I don't even know what to name them anymore, okay? But that triangle is what this movement is about. So when we talk about forced vaccinations, it expresses power, profit, and control. What are they doing? First, they started with fake science, outdated science. They've told us that the only way that you can protect all of us is by vaccination. That's the only way, right? That's the only way. And that started in 1962 by the passage of the Kennedy, I gotta say this, the Kennedy Vaccination Act. The Kennedy Vaccination Act. And that act in 1962 basically said that your body is so weak, right? It needs vaccines. It's the only way to beef up your body. Now, that science that they based it on was already 50 years old. And based on that science, they created the organizations under the CDC. They gave them power to start creating vaccine guidelines. And it all started with the 1962 Vaccination Act. So go read about that. That's where it all started. And one of the entities that act created was an organization, and check this out, which was responsible for marketing vaccines and for talking about safety. Okay, this is a fox watching the chicken house, right? The hen house. That's what you're talking about. That was created in 1962. By 1986, what happened? Injuries were showing up. Injuries were showing up. Thousands of people were filing lawsuits. Their children were being hurt. So what did they do? Did they get rid of that act? What did they do? They kept it, and what these politicians did at the federal level was they created a big Band-Aid, and it was called the National Vaccine Injury Program. By guess who?
Kennedy.
By another Kennedy, okay? Remember, a lot of Kennedys, I hate to say this, a lot of drugs, a lot of people die, overdose, we don't know what happened. So there's a culture of drugs there. So maybe that's part of it. But the next Kennedy comes, Ted Kennedy, and he creates a national vaccine injury program with Orrin Hatch and Waxman. And you can go read about this. These are facts that everyone should be educating people on, because we got to get down to truth. And what did that act do? It didn't eliminate the guidelines. It basically put a big Band-Aid, in fact, a big wall, to protect the vaccine manufacturers. Right? It said you could not sue the vaccine manufacturers. And you know what they did? They created a vaccine court. Unbelievable. Wow. They took it away from the court system. Remember, we're supposed to have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. They created their own. Wow. It's amazing. This is a corruption. They created their own courts under Health and Human Services. So if your kid got injured, you had to go to them. Wow. This is what Ted Kennedy did. Right here, Massachusetts. That's where it started. And what did that end up resulting in? You as a parent, if your kid got hurt, you couldn't go sue like you normally could. You had to go through all this bullshit, all this bureaucracy. And if your kid died, maximum was $250,000. That's what Ted Kennedy, Orrin Hatch brought you guys. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah. All this Camelot stuff, all the Kennedys are going to save us. This is all amazing marketing. It's one of the most brainwashing things that's been done in this culture. To brainwash blacks, to brainwash poor people, as though the Kennedys are the ones who are going to save us. And if you look at the history, that's not what they're about. They're about themselves and promoting their brand. That's all they're about. So that happened. So then they gave us some medical exemptions, right? Some religious exemptions. Oh, thank you so much for giving us that. And then they tried to take them away. So what does Robert Kennedy do? He's got to jump in, former heroin addict. I hate to say that's what he was, okay? But he's going to now help all of us. And for 15 years, this guy endorsed Hillary Clinton 3 times, who's in bed with Bill Gates like this, with Gavi. These are facts, facts, facts. And I was the first one to expose it, took a lot of heat for it, from a lot of rich white women, who were part of the vaccine movement, because that's what it primarily was, who were coddled up to Robert Kennedy so much that they, washed the feet that he walked on, okay? So I had to do it because I grew up in an India which had racism on steroids. So for me coming here, and everyday people were who my people are, I don't care about these guys. So I had to do the dirty job, which is what my people always had to do in India. We had to do the dirty work, okay? So I had to expose this guy. And people said I split the movement. No, it's not about splitting the movement. It's about truth versus lies. You can't unify truth and lies. You can't unify freedom and censorship. You can't unify health and disease. There is a separation. And what I'm trying to share with you is that the establishment is very smart. They create a not so obvious establishment always to go against people like myself and you who come bottoms up. So now you got Kennedy running around doing this interview, that interview, doing lives. But we exposed him because he's part of this. He endorsed Hillary Clinton 3 times. Vaccine queen. Her and Bill Gates are like this. She got $100 million from Bill Gates. That's who Robert Kennedy endorsed. So we're talking about the problem here is that we need to go to the root of and there are organizations who've been sitting in Massachusetts supposedly fighting for you. And we've exposed them. They're in bed with Robert Kennedy, people like Dale Bugtree, like this. Bugtree wants to be a star because he couldn't make it elsewhere. And this is no different than in the old days. You ever see the people with the old Sally Struthers commercial? They have people in Africa with the bloated bellies. Oh my God, those poor people, we're going to help them. And what they do is they just build up their organizations. They never help those people. And what they've been doing here in Massachusetts is asking us to beg, beg, beg. No more begging. That's not what free people do. We direct our own agenda. We're not here to thank the Kennedys. And by the way, exactly, we're not here for that. Joe Kennedy, the nephew, who's got already $51 million in the bank, never worked a day in his life, he's for mandated vaccines. And Robert Kennedy ran a fundraiser for him. Now, I don't care whether I'm running against him or not. I'm just telling you the facts, whether I was running against him or not. But we are going to beat him, and that's why they're so afraid. Exactly. The Democrat establishment and the Republican establishment are so afraid of us, they had to find some fool who's got 100 Twitter followers, another lawyer, in the Republican establishment to run them against me. Because they know when I win the Republican nomination, when we win it, It's going to be game, set, match to the hegemony of the liberal elite who've been running the state for too long. So they have to stop us, and they collude with the Republicans, and the Democrats collude. And by the way, Donald Trump is not a Republican or Democrat if you really unravel it. He was a disruptor. So don't, he's playing the Republican establishment, let's be honest. But he's not one of them. And in Massachusetts, we have an opportunity to win big. And we have to win big. We have no choice. You guys understand what I'm saying? We have no choice. As Jerry said, we have no choice. You got to go at this to win, win, win. That means everyone's got to get out there with those lawn signs, those bumper stickers. Everyone's got to start preaching the truth about truth, freedom, and all of you are warriors, okay? I'm just a humble catalyst. I just happen to be the lucky kid who got to go into their institutions. Somehow God brought me here, but I'm just a catalyst. All of you, every one of you, must be a warrior for truth, freedom, and health. You got to start speaking. You got to start articulating. You got to start exposing these people. And you got to take people on head. Not 1 inch. Not 1 inch. When people say, well, Robert Kennedy's a nice... No, he isn't. He's not a nice guy. This guy had 40, extramarital affairs. I mean, that's his business maybe. He's not a nice guy. The Kennedys, murders occur, rapes occur. They seem to get away with them. They're not nice people. They just have great photographers. They do. Great branding. You and I can't afford that, right? Let's get some nice photographers. I can make anyone here look great. Everyone. And you got to understand the power of Hollywood pictures and photos. They can make a criminal look amazing. So that's the Maya, as we say in the Hindu religion, if you study it, the illusion. And we live in the era of illusion, where truth can be made to be lies, and lies can be made to be truth. Real change agents can be made to be, put under the bus, and bogus people get out there. And that's what we're fighting. And it cannot be won by me alone. Every one of you has got to become that light. Every one of you. Does that make sense? That's right. That's what's got to happen. That's what this movement is about. That's right. It's about empowering all of you to stand up for what is within you, the light of God, which put you here to become you, to become a human being, not to ever lower your standards, not to ever say, well, that's enough. No, it's not enough. It's not enough that we beg for crumbs from organizations in Massachusetts who are here to take advantage of you. That's what this movement's about. So what is forced vaccination about? What's the solution? Well, I'm going to talk about a solution that I figured out for everyone here that integrates biology, integrates law, and it's going to empower all of you. But we're going to talk about that solution down there. And we have a couple more amazing speakers coming up. We have everyday people. John, where's Leah, is going to... and by the way, we just organized this right now because we went around and talked to people. We have a hand and foot surgeon here. We have Richard. Where's Richard? Former sanitation worker. Jen, who's a mother. So it's us talking and bringing this together. So we're going to do a march down that street. Then we're going to go up Tremont, and we're going to go to the source of the problem because these guys are corrupt. They're never going to do anything, okay? We're going to go to the source of the problem, which is, guess where? The John F. Kennedy Federal Building.
Nice.
That's where we're going to go because that's where all of this started. So we got to stop being manipulated. Oh, because these people are running around saying, oh, help me with this legislative bill. And they're all building their careers but in the back rooms. They don't do anything out front. It's all backroom dealing. Oh, don't say this. Don't hold that. They've been telling activists not to hold certain signs. You know that? They've been manipulating the whole movement. That's not how it works. On the ground, bottoms up, and we're going to go to the source of the problem, which is John F. Kennedy Federal Building. That's what Elizabeth Warren is. That's where Markey is. That's where Joe Kennedy is. That's where because this was a federal law that was put into place. So they got everyone running around in each state, divide and rule. As Michelle shared, we got to bring people together. And that single point, that target, that's what we got to hit. And I'll end with this very famous story. There's anyone know there's a very famous Indian treatise called the Mahabharata. It's one of the greatest. It's a great book, right? But there's a very, very famous warrior. His name is Arjuna, right? And there's two other warriors, and they have a great teacher. And the teacher, and he distinguishes how you win in life. And he says, look to the 3 trainees, the warriors. He goes, you see that bird over there? He goes, tell me what you see, because the goal was to take out with the bow the bird. And he goes, what do you see? He goes, well, the first warrior says, oh, I see a bird. It's beautiful. It's got feathers, and it's got a beak, and blah, blah, blah. And ask the second warrior, what do you see? He goes, oh, I see this bird. I see it's got a nice tail. I see it's got a yellow head, etc. And then he asks Arjuna, who's the greatest bowsman or archman, he goes, what do you see? He goes, I see the eye of that bird. That's what I see. You get the difference? We have to go to the root of the problem. The establishment wants us going everywhere else. We got to find out what the root of the problem is and take that out. And the issue here is the Vaccination Act. That should completely go away. And if you notice, the Kennedys keep keeping their Kennedy legacy. He's never talked about this. They will never talk about this because it's their legacy. They have buildings named after them. So that's where we're going to go. We got to go to the root of the problem, agitate on this, and when we go down there, I will give you a solution that every one of you can do. And it's a very powerful solution that integrates biology and health and law. That's what we're going to do. So let's all gather up and let's do a nice march right down the street. We're not going to go to the sidewalks because there's been a lot of other people marching, right? And they've been taking over the streets. We go right down the streets and we're going to do our march right down. It's a short walk, about 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Nice, beautiful day. And then we'll have ending right there. Is that all right with everyone? All right. Thank you.